Okay, so now we're recording. Wonderful. Okay, so without further ado, let's go over the goals for today. The slides are being a little glitchy. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we'll see. So we're going to go a little bit over class logistics just to kind of cap that off and make sure everyone's good to go. And I'll pause the lo-fi hip-hop beats because lecture has started. We'll go over what is Bash. We'll go over setting up Bash for all the different operating systems that you may be running on. And then we're going to be introing Bash. And that intro to Bash is going to be the majority of this lecture. What we'll do is we'll go over, I'll say, the majority of the basic commands. And so we'll go ahead and start. You guys see that? The title. It's weird. It's weird. Google Slides is messing with me today. So we'll just review logistics for a little bit. So in communication, we have CampusWire for all of your questions, Discord for group communication. Should you be taking notes, you can if you want. It's totally up to you. Maybe. I don't know. So people say that taking notes helps retain it in the brain. One thing you could also do is follow along. If you, we'll talk about that. Discord for group communication as well as Twitch chat and stuff. The CS196 websites for syllabus, lecture recordings, important links, kind of all that. And then email only for emergencies. Matt and I cannot attest to the rest of the admin or PMs. You got an ad. Oh, wow. I didn't think of that. We don't get money from that, so that's not us. Don't worry. And then pretty much what I'm saying is don't email us unless you absolutely have to. I cannot guarantee that we'll respond as fast as we would respond on Discord or CampusWire. So try to avoid that. That being said, if it is something, kind of more private or something that is a real emergency, maybe email is kind of the more formal way to approach it. But again, CampusWire might be a good way to do that as well. Matt will respond to your emails. I have like 1,000 unread emails on my school account, but most of them get directed to my main account and I read them. So I'll give it a 75-25. In terms of homework, we will be assigning those on Prairie Learn, so make sure that you're signed up for that course. It should just be going to Prairie Learn and signing up for the course. It will cover content from lecture. So quick reminders, is your Discord name in this format? If not, we cannot track your attendance. So please make it in that format. It is very important, at least live attendance. Recorded attendance will always be able to track through Prairie Learn. But if your name is not in this format on Discord, make it so. You see, it is messing with me today. It's messing with me. I promise that's not me going back. That's it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and actually start kind of the lecture portion of this, which is part 1 of Bash. I know you guys saw that one. What? Okay. Very strange. We're going to take you from a Bash beginner into a Bash wizard. You guys are going to be all doing all sorts of stuff. So I'm very excited. But you might be wondering, what is Bash? Bash is the text interface for controlling Unix-based operating systems. And so what that means is this is kind of you're a wizard. This is kind of a really basic way of controlling computers that a lot of people are going to use in a lot of times. Specifically, if you're kind of connecting to any computer that doesn't have a monitor, you're probably going to be using Bash in some way, shape, or form, usually remotely. As well as on your own computer, Bash is a wonderful tool for making files. Doing tons of stuff. What I'll say is it is a way to do almost anything in your computer. It is an acronym for Born Again Shell, a pun on the person who kind of made the current Unix shell. And it's used in a ton of different machines. What is going on with this, man? This is crazy. No, Stephen Bourne, not Jason Bourne. So why do you guys actually care? Why do you need to learn Bash? Well, as I previously mentioned briefly, it is the standardized way of interacting with computers. Will an M1 Mac be a problem? No. Good question. It is the standard way of interacting with computers and operating systems, and so a huge number of programs and also a huge number of programmers are using Bash all the time. Standardization of this allows for you to easily automate or implement or manipulate tons and tons of different tasks that makes your life a lot easier. Um, as well as a ton of server-side tasks may force you to use the terminal. Kind of a real-life example of this is for my research in the ECE department. I have to use the shell exclusively when I connect to the machines on campus. I did not just change the slide. My hands are off the keyboard. This is crazy. This is crazy. I'm gonna figure this out eventually, but it is messing with me big time. So how can you use Bash? So if you're on Linux, nothing. You don't need to do a single thing. All you need to do is open your terminal or your shell, and you're good to go. You're already using Bash. Haunted Blind, you don't make me look behind me. If you're using Mac, if you're pre-Catalina, which is probably a relatively small proportion of you at this point, I don't use Mac, so I can't remember how far away that was, but I'm pretty sure it was a good number of years. Nothing. Bash is the default shell. If you are post-Catalina, the default shell is ZSH, which is basically the same as Bash. I had to. I can't risk it. CSH is basically the same as Bash. For our purposes, it's going to be the same. You can swap between them by running the bash command in the terminal, but that's usually not necessary because it'll basically be the same. For Windows, it can sometimes be a little bit more complex, and what I mean by that is there's a couple different ways to attack this problem. What is shell? Shell is the that's a great question. It's a little bit hard to answer. Shell is the method in which you interact with your computer at a very low level. Um, oh man, it's so messing with me right now. If you are on Windows 10, there's a couple different ways to get the bash. First of all, you can just download something like a Linux shell like Ubuntu, right? You can also download a virtual machine if you want and set up kind of an entire Linux distribution. You can use EWS machines that the university provides. This will force you to be on the UIUC network, but you can always set up and download the UIUC VPN for free. And to figure out how to do that, Google is your friend. Google, UIUC VPN and then UIUC EWS to learn to connect. Again, though, I will kind of emphasize the easiest way is to just Google, Windows Ubuntu and use the shell that way, or use the terminal, whatever you want to call it that way. Personally, I use something called WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is actually more like Linux Subsystem for Windows, but there's a fun story behind why it has to be named that way. And basically what that does is the same thing as this Ubuntu shell. Okay, so, oh, it's messing with me so much. We interact with the bash command line through a variety of commands, and that's going to be a big thing that we're going to be learning today and as well on Tuesday. Commands are these statements that are going to indicate specific tasks, and some commands, but not all, require arguments. Arguments are as you guys are probably learning in 125, the things that you're going to tell it, kind of extra information that it's going to work with, right? And we'll look at some specific examples of that later. Additionally, a lot of commands in bash use flags. And so what a flag is, often it'll be dash and then a letter, for example. And I like to give this example for the, let's see if I can pull it up for you guys. Not that one. Shame on me for not pre-adding this. Okay, so do you guys know that timer that happens before lecture? Well, this is the command that I run to do it. We can see term down 10 a.m., title CS196. And this title, this is a flag. And then we're going to pass that extra information. But again, these are just different ways of interacting with these commands. And we're going to go over those in tons of detail over the next lectures. So don't worry too much about it now. So when we're working with the shell, it's very useful to kind of have this idea of the directory structure in your head, right? And so this is going to be an example that we're working with for our purposes. And specifically, I have this shell here, which is representative of this, okay? And so this is live on my computer. And you can see at the very top, we can see C, Windows, System32, Intro to Bash, right? And so hopefully you guys are kind of familiar with file systems and how we store files on a computer a little bit. And so we can see that same structure represented here. And so we can see C, Windows, System32, Intro to Bash. And just for the graphical representation of this, you can't read the blue. It might just be you. Yeah, it's fine. It's a little hard to read. Can we use any connect fastx? Yes, you can. If you're connecting to EWS. What we'll do for this graphical representation is use the red to dictate where our current location is, okay? And so again, this graphical representation is just going to be a tool to help you guys understand these different commands as we learn about them a little bit easier. So let's learn about our first command, ls. ls is short for list, and it will list all of the files in your current directory. If you want to use ls, all you have to do is type ls. And so we'll open up the shell very quickly. And we can look back to this structure here. And so currently we're in this intro to bash. And if we run the ls command, we can see it'll say directory1, file1.txt, and python file.py. And so then we can look graphically and we see, sure enough, directory1 is right here, file1.txt, and python file.py. Additionally, you can start directories or text files with a period, and they become hidden. And if they're hidden, you can do ls-a, which will list all files, including hidden files. So we'll run that right now. We'll add that -a flag, and sure enough, we can see hidden file and somewhere. Oh, I think I put shame on me for putting hidden directory in the wrong directory, but we'll see it eventually. Why would you want to hide files? Well, a lot of the time, hidden files are used as kind of an administrative thing to store stuff that the user doesn't need to directly interact with, but the program might need to interact with. And so I can give you guys a more concrete example. Oh, actually, nah, I won't do that. It'll take too much time. But I was going to show you guys kind of my actual C drive and give you an LSA, and you'll see there's probably 50 folders that start with period for all sorts of different stuff like Conda, PyTorch, TensorFlow. All of them have their own hidden files that they're going to use stuff in. Great, so we've learned about ls and LSA, which will list all files. The next thing we're going to look at is PWD. PWD stands for print working directory. As the title suggests, this function is used to print the working directory. If you want to use it, you simply need to type pwd. So we'll do that. And can you guys try to guess if this is our system, what this is going to print? I'm watching Twitch chat. What do you think pwd will give us? If we're printing the working directory, the current path. Intro to bash, close. Intro to bash, intro to bash. So you guys are very close. It actually gives you the entire path, right? So you do have the intro to bash here, which is correct, but it needs this previous thing as well. Yeah, so you're going to get C Windows System 32 intro to bash. Don't worry too much about this MNT. This is just the fact that I'm using WSL instead of something like Ubuntu. Yeah, the entire path, exactly. Okay, the next one we're going to be looking at is CD, which is oh, this is messing with me so much. Short for change directory. As the name implies, CD will change the directory that you're in. This one takes an argument, and so you actually have to tell it where you want to go. And so how you use it is you'll type CD, and then you'll tell it where you want to go, and then it will navigate your shell into that location. And so in our example here, we're starting in this intro to bash folder, and we'll type CD directory1. And remember that directory1 is a folder that we saw with ls. And we'll enter. And you can see that now directory1 has been added onto that. And I'll pwd so you guys can read it a little bit easier. Apparently the blue is a little bit tough to read. But you can see directory1 is now part of our current path. And so we have moved from this intro to bash location into the directory1 location. Let's be kind. Be kind in Twitch chat, folks, all right? This is why we don't use the actual Twitch chat. How do you CD directories with spaces in Windows? That's a great question. You can use quotation marks to do a raw string. Though I do believe different operating systems sometimes will teach kind of or sometimes will treat the raw strings differently. But generally, we'll get there, Welby. Don't worry. Generally speaking, quotations are your friends. Sometimes you'll need some extra magic in there, especially once you start to ask the question of what do you do when there's a quotation in the path. It can get a little bit fun. We'll talk a little bit more about CD. You can also CD, and if the path starts with a backslash, which indicates a path itself, then it treats it not as a relative path. If you remember, whoops. If you remember previously, we just did CD directory 1. In this situation, we'll need to do the entire thing. So we would have to do cd/mnt/c/windows/system32/intro to bash. And that'll take us back to this intro to bash. Now, an easier way to go back is to just do cd dot dot. And if you look here, when we did LSA, you can actually see this dot dot here, right? These are prefixes. With this presentation, yes, the presentation and the lecture are both recorded and put on the website. And so these are prefixes that bash will use. And so period is for the current directory. And so if we do cd period, nothing happens. But if we do cd dot dot, the website is cs196.illinois.edu, I believe. You can just Google it. There's also links in the resources channel. And so you can also do cd dot dot, and that will just take you back a directory. And so you can see, while before we were in Windows System 32 Intro to Bash, now we're just in Windows System 32. And if we want to get back into Intro to Bash, we can do cd intro to bash, and we're sent back there. Great. And so again, if we're kind of initially in this directory 1 folder, and we do cd dot dot, you do not have to follow along, but you can if you want. Generally speaking, you will do this in a bash terminal. We talked a little bit earlier about kind of how to use bash on different platforms. Kind of the default Windows terminal is actually not bash, or the default Windows command line is not the exact same as bash, and so you might need to get an actual bash terminal. And then so if we do cd dot dot from this location, it'll take us back one level into the intro to bash folder. Bash is fun, I promise, and it's very useful. If we do it one more time, we're sent back into system 32. Yeah. Okay, so the next one we're going to be learning about is cat. Cat is short for concatenate, which isn't very explanatory, but what it does is it displays the contents of a file. And so how you use it is you type cat and then the file that you want to read. And so for our example, what we'll do is we'll do ls. We can see that we have a file here called file1.txt. And so we'll cat file1.txt. And that'll print us, hello world, this is file 1. And if we open this up in a text editor, this is what we would see as well. So it prints the actual contents of the file. Additionally, we can cat python file.py, and we can see print hello world. It's a simple Python line. What if it's a massive file? It'll print it. It might take a very long time, but it'll print it. I have made that mistake more than one time. Great. So again, cat is used to print the contents of a file. Next, we're going to learn about, I didn't screenshot the instructions for using bash in the terminal. That's fine. You don't have to do it right now. The short answer is that if you're Linux, you can just use it normally. If you're on iOS or Mac, or I should say Mac, then you want to use ZSH, which is kind of default in it. And then if you're on Windows, you should download kind of the Ubuntu shell. And you can just Google how to do that and download it that way. Can you read a specific line as an argument of cat? I don't believe so, but I could be wrong about that. So for touch is how you can create a file in the current directory, or if you want to give it a path, a specific directory. And so how this will work is we can say touch new file.txt. Actually, let me move into directory 1 to be the same as the graph here. So we'll touch new file.txt, and then we can do ls, and we can see new file.txt is right here. And so we've created this new file. What happens if I do cat new file.txt? Keep Twitch chat good, folks. This is an actual course, so try to teach it like such. Exactly, it's going to return nothing because that's a completely empty file. We haven't written anything in there. Wonderful. So we have an empty file, but we don't necessarily need it, and so now we're going to learn how to remove files. And so this will be with this rm command. So rm command will permanently delete a file, as it says. One thing to note is it is permanently deleting it. Are you limited to txt files, or you can create any type of file you want? You cannot create directories with it, though. RNM will permanently delete a file. There are some very, I'll say, like hardcore ways to recover it, which kind of go down to like looking at the hard drive itself on a physical level. But basically, when you RM a file, it's gone. And so please be careful with this. But how it works is you can do RM and then the file you want to delete. And so in our case, will be new file.txt. And so we'll run that, and we'll run ls again, and we can see new file.txt is no longer there. We've deleted it. There's a flag for RM, specifically the R flag and the F flag, which will delete all of the files and all of the files' underlying components, or a directory for that matter. Please be very careful with this. As it suggests, it deletes all of the files and all of the files in the directory permanently. And so if you do something, as I think Welby or someone previously joked, RM, RF, and then like Windows System 32, you will delete your computer and it will not be recoverable and bad things will happen. Hopefully it will prevent you from actually deleting your system before it gets there. There are some things in place, but it will delete certain things before it gets to those kind of roadblocks. So please be careful using RMRF. That being said, it is very useful if you want to delete an entire folder and all of the things in it. Yeah, be careful, folks. So again, we can RM that new file and it'll get deleted. It's trippy, these slides, man. Okay, so we've learned how to delete files and make files. Let's learn how to make and delete folders. So to make a folder, we run something called mkdir, which stands for make directory. Mkdir will make an empty directory, as you may be able to imagine. And so in our example, we'll cd into directory 2, and we'll make a new directory called new directory. So mkdir new directory, if I spell it right. We'll type ls, and we can see file 2 as well as new directory. If I cd into new directory and ls, what will I see? You don't have to. I'm using tab to autocomplete it, and so it adds that slash in case I want to do stuff afterwards, but you do not need it. If, for example, you wanted to do something like this, so we'll say ls, and I wanted to cd into directory 2 slash new directory, you will need that slash in between. You can't do something like this. This will not work, so you do need the slash in this situation. But that will send me directly into new directory. Exactly. So if we ls in new directory, we'll see nothing because it's a brand new empty folder, right? Okay, so we've gotten through kind of the most basic. Did you see that? We've gotten through the most basic commands, and so we're going to take a little bit of time here to review and also ask questions. So we've learned how to make files, make folders, delete folders, navigate into different spots, view where we currently are, and view files and folders in our current directory. So I want to wait here just for 1 sec to see if you guys have any questions. Again, make sure you're asking in either Twitch chat or lecture questions. I'm watching them both. Yeah. Yeah, there's tons of cheat sheets for Bash. What I'll say is either Google one, or honestly, you'll memorize this stuff in like 3 hours. It's so fast to learn. It will become second nature like that, I promise. And then, for the really complex stuff that we'll start to learn about on Tuesday, that stuff you Google anyway. How to remove directory? Oh, we haven't done that yet. No spoilers. No spoilers, Tommy. In order to test all these commands, we have to do them in order. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sage. You can kind of do these in whatever order you want. They all are just tools to do different stuff. Sage, you should add parentheses around your net ID though. That way our bot can see it. Yeah, so the setup for doing this is just opening a shell. And I'll run all the way back there real quick just because I think it's important to notice. There's a typo on the slide 44. Matt, fix it for me. Um, so for Linux, all you have to do is open your shell or your terminal or your console or whatever you want to call it. For Mac, if you're on pre-Catalina, bash is the default shell, so you don't really have to worry about it. If you're post-Catalina, your default shell is ZSH, and so you can use that. Okay, Matt. For Windows, I highly suggest you just Google, Ubuntu Linux shell and download it that way. That's definitely going to be your easiest way to get past this and to use the bash shell, which is very useful in general. Okay. So let's do, what slide am I on? I wonder. Now I'm getting worried. It's probably later. We're going to use the poll bot and we're going to do some polls. And so I have a new idea for a project and I want to make a folder for it. So first I'm going to open my shell. How do I check where I am? And this is going to be, I've made another one for this for you guys to look at. So how do I check where I am? And so don't answer in chat. Don't answer in chat. I'm going to do poll, create. How many options are there? 5. Where am I? Okay, so if you guys go to the poll bot channel, you can react to that message, and it'll remove your reaction, but it will record what you reacted. So go to the poll bot channel and click on what option you think is correct. Whoops, you guys can't see that. I'm going to hide this for now. This channel does not exist. Oh, we forgot to make it open to you guys. We're so good at this. There you go. Alrighty, go now, go now. Go to Polbot channel now. Can you guys see it now? We've been testing it so much. It's open now. That's wonderful. Okay, yeah. So click on those. It will remove your reaction, but it will get recorded. So don't worry too much about that. I see a lot of people are clicking on what is probably the right answer. So you want to check where you are. You want to know where your terminal opened up to. And so for our example here, we can go like this. And so I just opened this terminal and I want to see my current path. Production quality. Great. Okay, I'm going to give you guys just a minute or two more. If you haven't already, go to Polbot and react. This is how we track your attendance. This is, in fact, if you click in a different one, it's the latest one is correct. So you're okay there. The latest click is correct. Go to Polbot. This is how we track your attendance. Ubuntu versus WSL2. I have heard WSL2 has had certain problems with compatibility with things. That being said, it is probably better. It's up to you. Ubuntu is definitely easier, is what I'll say. WSL2 is like a whole can of worms that you may not want to get into. Yeah. Especially if you're, well, you guys don't care about that. Never mind. WSL2 might force you to use like insider program versions of Windows that are like in super beta and then are going to crash, and you don't want to do that. So again, I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of more time here. Make sure you go to the Polbot channel and react. Obviously, if you're watching this recorded, this would be a good time to open up Prairie Learn and go to the lecture questions. They will be the same questions. So, okay. So which one's correct? PWD, of course. We want to print our working directory, so PWD is going to show us where we currently are. So we'll run PWD to see that. Okay, so I want to make a folder to it. We're now here. How do I navigate into my projects folder? Don't react to the same one. Oh, I should have. Oh, I should have done this before. Oh, pull. Hold up. Hold. Uh-oh. Is the bot dead? Oh, no, it's working. Okay. Okay. So you want to make a folder. How do you navigate to your project's folder? The bot might be tripping right now. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is a little bit of a stress test. Uh, but it will remove your reactions. That is on purpose. No, it removes the reactions on purpose. Again, you don't have to do WSL. I do suggest you just download like the Ubuntu shell instead. It's probably a lot easier. Yeah, we want to hide the count. So, okay, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit more time here. How do I navigate into my projects folder if we're here, for example? Which one of these? LS, PWD, RM, CD, or MKDIR? You're navigating to the existing folder. Okay, I'm just 60 more seconds, probably less, maybe like 10. It definitely says how do I navigate. The first question said make. This one says navigate. You're scaring me. Refresh the slides. It is refreshed. Oh, I see what you mean. All right, what slide am I on? You guys are going to see the behind the scenes real quick. Thanks, Matt. All right. So we'll get back to the thing. Okay, so if you want to navigate into an existing folder, you want to use CD because the folder already exists, right? LS doesn't take any arguments, so that doesn't really make sense. PWD doesn't take any arguments. RM projects would delete the folder, so you definitely don't want to do that. CD projects will navigate you in, which is what we want to do, and then mkdir projects will attempt to create another folder of the name, but will yell at you because there's already a folder of that name. Okay, so finally we've navigated into it. Now we want to make a new folder for our new project. And so which one of these do we need to do? The bot is down for a second, I think. Pull, create. Oh no. Oh no. We're fixing the bot right now. I see. I'm looking at chat. This is a new experience for us. So we're learning as much as you are right now. We thought that having the bot would be a fun, unique way of doing attendance, and it still would be. And it still would be. We're just working out the kinks, one lecture at a time. All right, bot's dead. All right. You have a new idea for a project and you want to make a folder for it. Of course, you want to do mkdir my website, right? Yeah, we'll have to go back to raising. We'll fix this bot. Don't worry about it. Next time, people will get attendance for this one regardless. I guess. Either way, if you're doing it recorded, please fill out the Prairie Learn. That helps us with just knowing how many people are live versus recorded. So, how do you make the website folder mkdir my website? Yeah, you guys did kill it. So mkdir my website will make an empty folder for the new website. Okay, wonderful. Let's keep learning about new commands. Now that our poll bot has perished. Um, the first one we'll learn about is rmdir. So rm deleted files and mkdir created folders. What do you guys think rmdir does? Spoiler alert, it says it on the screen. So okay, yeah. So rmdir deletes a directory. One thing to notice is that it will only delete an empty directory. While rm will delete directories with files in them, rmdir will only delete an empty directory. So if you know a directory is empty, make sure to use rmdir because it will error out if it is not empty and you will not break stuff, right? So if we do rmdir directory to remove, it will remove that directory. And so we can do that here. We'll cd into directory 1. We'll cd into directory 2. We'll ls. We'll see our new directory. We know that that new directory is empty. And so we'll do rmdir new directory. We'll do ls again, and we can see that it is in fact deleted. Nice. Let's talk about move. So move has two major purposes. First, to rename a file, and second, to move a file to a new location. And so first, let's talk about to renaming a file. If you want to rename a file, you only need to write move, the name of the original file, and then the name of the new file that you want it to be called, right? And so an example here is move original file.txt, renamed file.txt. My terminal is gone. Ooh, nice. Good catch. I'll bring it back when you guys need it. But for now, I'm going to make it invisible. Thank you for mentioning it. So in this situation, we want to take file1.txt and rename it to data.txt. And so we'll open up our shell. And we will make sure we're in the intro to bash, pwd. Sure enough, we're in the right spot. Let's ls. There's file1. And so we'll do mv file1.txt, the original name, and then we'll rename it to data.txt. Good question in chat. What if we try to rename file1.txt to file2.py? It will rename it to file2.py. It will become a Python file, even if it does not have any, I will say, Python code in it, right? That can cause some kind of extreme confusion when you rename, say, text files into images. Bad things happen. Generally speaking, some of those more advanced file types will have headers that they expect saying like, hey, this is actually this type of file. And so it'll just error out and it'll say it won't be able to open it, but it will, your computer will, in a way, think that it's an image when it's not, or a Python file when it's not. So we'll run ls, and sure enough, we can see data.txt is here. Now, the second one we talked about is move can actually be used to move the file to a new location. And so how this works is we can type move all of the files we want to move, and then the directory that we want to move files into. In this situation, we only want to move data.txt, and so we'll say move data.txt, and then we'll say directory1, right? And so we'll run this, we'll ls, we see that data.txt is no longer here, so we'll move into directory1, we'll ls, and we see that data.txt is here. And in fact, remember that this was originally file1. We'll cat data.txt, and look at that. It still has the original contents from file1. Can you copy it, rename it? That's a great question. So let's talk about copy. CP. CP copies a file to a new location. It's almost the same as move, but it does not get rid of the original, right? And so in this situation, we have data.txt in directory 1, and we want to copy it into directory 2. And so what we'll do is we'll run copy data.txt, and then directory 2 data.txt. We'll run ls. Data.txt is still here. Data.txt still has the same stuff on the inside. You guys can see this, correct? Very good. I need to get better at making this go away and come back at the right times. We'll move into directory 2, ls, data.txt is right there, and we will view data.txt, and sure enough, it has the same contents. Stay strong, Tim. Tim is our bot builder. So he's having a great time right now. So we've copied that file. Wonderful. And then kind of the last big one that we're going to learn about is man, which is short for manual, which is your best friend. The reason I teach you this at the end is because I want you to remember it. So if you do not know how to use something, run man and then that command. So you might say, Eustis, I forgot what pwd does. So you're going to say man pwd, and it will print all of the information you need about PWD. PWD prints the name of the current working directory. You can do all sorts of stuff, the logical, the physical, the version. You can run help for it. Your shell may have its own version of PWD. You can see who wrote it. You can see where you can report bugs on PWD, though I would be very surprised if it had bugs. So there's a ton of stuff, and we can even man some more kind of advanced stuff. So we'll man like move, for example, and we can see there's all sorts of flags that you can work with for stuff like move, right? So these are I'll say more complex than they seem under the hood. Man. Oh, nice. Oh wow, this is verbose. I had no idea. But yeah, even man has its own flags, it seems. This is crazy. I never thought to man. Wonderful. Okay. So we've made some great progress so far. I want to take some time once again to wait and see if you guys have any questions. We've learned about how to remove files, move files, copy files, and then ask a question, essentially. Oh, okay, I'll try man. I'm pretty sure it'll just give me an error because I think it'll say like you have too many things. Oh, it didn't give me an error, but it's the same as just man, unfortunately for you. This is more than I've learned. Well, this is the first lecture. You should be so excited for the future lectures. We have so many awesome lectures. I can't wait to teach you. Even next lecture is going to be so much more fun, I'll say. When you drag files on Windows, is it executing these bash commands? Great question, Alex. The short answer is yes. Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is these are both doing an even lower level of things. Yeah, I know. There's so many layers. Did he really ask that? Spoiler warning. Bash Lecture 2. Yeah, Bash Lecture 2 is greater than Bash Lecture 1. That's true. Bash Lecture 1 is like, this is cool and quirky. Bash Lecture 2 is like, this is crazy. This is actually very useful. Okay, so I'm going to move on unless people have any other big questions, but I don't see them. Let's do some review for a second. So we've learned about LS, what is LS short for? I'm looking in Twitch chat. List, exactly. PWD, print working directory. CD, change directory. LS is, what's here, essentially. Folders, files, stuff like that. PWD is where am I? CD is I would like to go here. Yeah, list. Awesome, all of you. Great work. Cat is concatenate. That is how you see the contents of the file. As someone previously mentioned, what happens if you run cat on a very, very big file? It will print out the contents of that very, very big file into your terminal, and it may take a very long time. Printing is actually a relatively slow operation, believe it or not. Touch makes a file, makes an empty file, and that file can be anything you want. There's RM, which removes a file or folders with files in them. Be a little bit careful with RM. It can sometimes delete more than you want, and you cannot get it back. There is no undo button. Tried catting it. Yeah. Yeah. Be careful with stuff like that. mkdir makes a folder. rmdir deletes a folder as long as it's empty. If it's not empty, it'll yell at you. Just to show you guys an example of that, we will try it. So we'll say ls We see directory 2. We know that directory 2 is not empty, so we'll try rmdir directory 2. Failed to remove directory 2. Directory not empty. Then additionally, we learned about move, which can either rename or move, copy, which copies, and then man, which gives you a manual for another command. If I forget how to use move, what can I do? How do I use the man command? What would I type into my console? Man move, close. Man mv, exactly. Exactly. Great work. Yeah. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Move can also be used to move multiple things. Do you guys remember how to do that? If I have like 4 files and I all want to move them into one directory. Yeah, so if we want to move multiple files with move, all we have to do is kind of list them one after another. So we'll look here. We have data.txt and file in directory.txt. So we'll say move data.txt, file in directory.txt, directory 2. And so this will move both data.txt and file in directory.txt to directory 2. We'll run it. ls, those are both gone. We'll move into directory 2. Whoops, I did the wrong thing. We'll ls directory 2, and we can see data.txt, file in directory.txt. Can you move and rename multiple files at the same time? No. Good question. Maybe. There might be some flag with move that allows you to do that, but I feel like that's kind of asking for trouble, so I'm going to say no to that. I'm sure that there is some way to do it with. I think there's probably an easy way to do it too, but we're not going to talk about that yet because you haven't learned about regex yet. Is what my answer to that will be. Great. And so we're going to introduce just a couple more concepts in these last few minutes of chat or of lecture here. I'm a little slow, but in the future I'll be more on time. So we'll talk about piping. For piping, you're going to use your caret, which is shift period. If you use a single one, it will redirect the output from the command line into another file. And so if we want to say like cat some file or ls into some file, that'll just move it kind of into what we want. And so what we'll do here is we'll say touch my file.txt, and then we'll say ls, and we will pipe it. I'm not showing you guys my thing. And we will pipe it into myfile.txt, and then we'll cat myfile.txt, and we can see this is the output of ls. Additionally, if you use 2 of these, instead of replacing the contents of the folder, we append to the contents of the folder. And so we'll run that same thing again. We will append to the contents of myfile.txt, and we will view the contents of myfile.txt, and we can see it's just the same thing twice because we appended to the end of it. Some quick useful tips. As you guys may have seen, you can use the tab key to autocomplete files. So if I have something like, file endure, there's 2, isn't there? Yeah, so if I have something like file2.txt, oh, why is it yelling at me right now? All right, there we go. Cat myfile.txt, we can use tag. It's my computer. It's yelling at me so much. Yeah, it's me. It's yelling at me. I don't know why. We can do something like cat myfile.txt, and we can use tab to autocomplete that. Additionally, you can use the up and down arrows. I'm sorry for all the da-da-da. It's me. It's me. I promise. We can use the up and down arrows to look at past commands. If a command is taking a long time, so if you cat a PowerPoint, for example, you can use Control C to end the current program. and then the double exclamation point will bring up the previous command, but also the up arrow will. So okay. Sorry that this lecture has, I'll say, ended at a perfect time. Maybe a little bit later than I would have liked. But do you guys have any quick questions? We'll talk briefly about some of the next steps after this. But I'll be actually, you guys just ask your questions away, and we're going to be talking about looking forward. So Bash 1 releases today. Specifically, it'll release on Prairie Learn in 10 minutes. It is due before next lecture. Next lecture is next Tuesday at 7 p.m. CST. This shouldn't take too long. It's just a basic kind of review of what we learned about in lecture today. So making a folder, making a file, moving that around, stuff like that. The next lecture is Bash 2. I'll be more on time next lecture, but the bot going down slowed me down a little bit. What is Bash primarily used for? The short answer to that is tons of stuff. Yep, the slides will be on the website. Bash is a kind of the default way of interacting with a lot of computers, is what I'll say. We'll talk about this thing called SSH in next lecture in Bash 2, and that'll give you a really concrete reason that you're forced to use Bash. But wait until next lecture for that. So next lecture is Bash 2. We'll learn about commands, text editing, and scripting a little bit in Bash 2. In terms of projects, again, those won't start until the 4th week, but you should expect project interest forms to come out in the near future. We're aiming for this weekend. And what we're aiming for, or what these are going to include, is just kind of your general interests, just to give us an idea of, the groups that we want to pair you in, as well as the best project manager for your group. And these don't have to be anything specific, right? It's just, we'll probably have you rank like, oh, I really want to do machine learning. I also want to do maybe something related to like healthcare or CS for education and stuff like that. The Bash homework will be on Prairie Learn. Okay, I'm 2 minutes over. Can you pick group members? No, sorry. Um, we don't let people pick group members for a lot of good reasons. Um, so thank you all for coming to your first real lecture. Sorry that I went 2 minutes over. The bot is going to be blessed upon. But if you guys want to leave, feel free to leave now. Thank you all for coming to your first lecture. Don't forget about your homework. And if you're watching this recorded, go do the poll online so that we know how many people are watching recorded. It helps us a lot.